Hello and welcome to Navigating Life with Coach Lo. I have an amazing guest. All my guests are amazing, just so that you guys are really, really clear. But this is she is just really, really special to me, to my heart. Has been a little sister to me, and I have just watched her blossom into a next level amazing woman, into a next level amazing mom and wife. And so I want to welcome our special guest today. Heather Avant is with us. And Heather, please introduce yourself to our Navigating Life audience.
Well, thank you, Lo, for having me on the show today. I find it such an honor that you even asked. My story, I feel like, is unique, but I feel like everyone has a unique story. So I'm just so blessed that you chose to ask me. So a little bit about myself. I hail from Ann Arbor, Michigan, go blue. And I live here in Dallas, Texas with my husband, Jason, and my sweet little 3-year-old Jett, and he lives by his name. He runs around like a jet plane all the time. I'm not quite sure if I misnamed him and put that on me, but we're gonna go with it. I am a photographer. I am a sickle cell activist or patient advocate, and I have my own company, and I take newborn portraiture. It's called Artfully Avant. And right now I am moonlighting through COVID, doing some architectural work for a big construction firm. So that's a lot of fun.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you are wearing many hats in this season is what that looks like. Is it the big picture? Is you, in spite of all that's going on around us, it seems like you're figuring out how to navigate things. And so that's really, really good to hear. I'm glad to hear that you are back to work and, making some moves, because for a minute it was a little rough. And with that being said, I don't want to give away too much too soon. So let's dig in. So Heather shared that she is a sickle cell patient advocate, and she is also a sickle cell survivor. And so Heather, I would love for you to share with our audience how you personally define sickle cell. I find it easier for an audience of people that might not know quite what sickle cell is or how it affects a person. I find it easier for someone who has survived through something to convey its definition in layman's terms so that the average person listening can have a greater understanding and comprehension of what's going on. So please help us understand, what exactly is sickle cell?
Well, sickle cell is a rare disease, actually. It is a round blood cell disorder. It affects the round cells in the human body. So basically what it means is I have a lack of hemoglobin, which gives oxygen to our round blood cells. And so what that does is it causes my cells to be sickled in shape. And those sickled cells are stiff and they're hard and they stick together. And they cause basically almost like miniature clots in your veins. And that can lead to all types of damage, because wherever your blood flows to your body, which is basically everywhere, you can have damage from those little clots forming all over. And the biggest side effect of sickle cell, that most sickle cell people who live in pain. And it has affected me my entire life. When I hit around 20 years of age, I became allergic to pain medication from taking it. I feel like taking it too much throughout my childhood. So I am not even able to take any pain medication. So day to day, I get up, I'm in pain. I have to kind of just pray the pain away. I know that sounds crazy. My friends are like, yeah, you're nuts. But in reality, it's a lot of just, mind over matter and living each day to the fullest, even though I deal with pain every day and having to work through that pain. Some days it's worse than others. Today's a rainy day. So unfortunately, I'm experiencing a little aches and pains than I usually would. And then some days, I just have to say, I have a 3-year-old. So life is kind of more like get up and get moving, it's a kick in the butt. But I wouldn't take that pain away now of what I know of it. I would never put it on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't take it away because it has taught me so much through life, right? It's made me who I am. Sickle cell is not, I don't feel like it defines me, but it has added to me and given me insight into life and insight into other people and helped me become passionate about seeing people live well, thrive well, and just do above and beyond what the limitations of their body has set for them.
I love it. I love it. That was really, really good. And it's funny because I never quite heard it expressed that way. You gave me the best definition, but I think that you did it even better today. And so I just want to say thank you for that. So help us to understand. So Heather, at what age were you diagnosed with sickle cell? Did your parents always know that you had sickle cell? Was that something, is sickle cell hereditary? Help us to understand how that works.
So sickle cell is a hereditary disease. You can't catch it like you can catch a cold. Okay, so your parents have to have genes. So it's a recessive gene. And sickle cell trait is the recessive gene. So for the most part, most people, most African Americans, a lot of African Americans, 1 in 4 African Americans actually probably has the trait. We're so few tested that we don't really know those numbers precisely, but sickle cell trait is widely popular among African American people and people of Middle Eastern descent, as well as some of our Hispanic people, so our Latinx people. Okay. It's very common. So it's a recessive gene. So I found out I had sickle cell when I was still in my mom's tummy. I wasn't even out. I was like, hello, this is what I have. But the reason for that was because my brother has sickle cell. So he was diagnosed during a newborn screening. When they first started back in the very early 80s, he was diagnosed with a newborn screening. So they checked me like in utero. They did a in vitro exam, and I was positive as well. So they kind of knew going into having me that I was going to have sickle cell, and they had 2 babies with sickle cell, not just one. Unfortunately, my parents didn't. My mom knew she had the trait. My dad did not. So it was a surprise because he had been tested. Unfortunately, he tested, and the test that he had received at that time came back negative. Unfortunately, what we know now is sickle cell has so many different types. It's not just one type. There's all different types. It goes from sickle cell SS to SC to SODEFGH and sickle beta thal and all types of different sickle cells. So we didn't realize that he probably had one that didn't get tested for it.
So when your brother, so which one of your parents has sickle cell?
They both have the trait, that neither one of them have disease. It's a recessive trait. So it's kind of like your eye color. You have 2 parents who have brown eyes, you're probably going to have brown. If you don't have brown eyes, there's probably an issue. So if you have, a parent with brown eyes and one blue, it's a recessive trait. So you're going to get it from one parent.
Okay. Wow.
So they both have the trait. They both have the recessive trait.
Okay. And so you are a mother. And so how does that affect your son, Jett?
That's a good question. Most people don't even kind of ask that. I think they kind of skip over that. So Jett has sickle cell trait. He has sickle cell AS, which is a recessive gene. My husband has an A and an A, which he has no sickle cell. He doesn't have a trait. He doesn't have a recessive gene for it at all. I have an S and an S because I have full-blown sickle cell, and my son has an A and an S, so he has sickle cell trait. So when he goes out into married life and furthering his, livelihood as he grows into a man, he's going to have to think about that. It's going to be something that he's going to have to really kind of think about and pay attention to as he gets older and goes into dating relationships. And it'll be something that, of course, I'm sure living in this house, he's going to be well aware of what's going on. I can't imagine him being like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure he's going to be well aware.
Right.
If I could beat it into him.
Right. Okay. So I really wanted to talk about this because we've already gotten through it Jett is 3 years old now, but I never quite understood the dynamic of having children and sickle cell. I don't understand what is the issue there?
There is an issue. There isn't an issue and there is an issue, okay? So each person with sickle cell is going to experience it differently. How I experienced bringing Jett into this world, Jett was like, he was like modern day torture coming into this world. I love my little boy, but he worked me so hard. He took everything I had plus some, and then snatched some from the dog. He wasn't kidding. He was like, I'm coming full force. And I love that about him because he's still that way today. But he took all of me. He left me with nothing. And I think that was because in my life, I've just really struggled with sickle cell and later in life. And because I'm an older mommy, I had Jett when I was 36, and that's hard on a 36-year-old body. They call you a geriatric pregnancy already, and then you having a baby and you have a pre-existing medical condition. You add all that in, and I had a lot of issues. Jett liked to work me through my pregnancy, but he got here successfully and came out hollering. So, I did something right, but he took all of me. So I won't be having another one.
Okay.
He's a special sugar, as Lo says.
Yes. And it did. It's and it still does, because Jett is a very healthy young man. And he is a chunky man. He is a big boy.
No, I was agreeing with you. He's a big boy.
Yes, he is. But he is just so amazing. He is so smart. And I think that you guys, both you and Jason, have done just a fantastic job as his parents. I wanted.
Oh, thank you.
I've learned so much, but still know so little. I think that there's still so much to learn about sickle cell and how it affects people. But we have had conversations around your journey in sickle cell, and you have had near deaths, I want to say twice or three times. Can you tell us about those experiences?
A few over 3 times, but 3 times recently. Yeah, those were traumatic. I've had some very traumatic experiences with my sickle cell, mostly as an adult. My childhood trauma is so different. When you're a little kid, you don't think of death the same way I think you think of it as an adult. So even though I may have had life or death experiences as a child, my experiences were so different, right? My experiences were like, I go to sleep, I talk to Jesus, I wake up. My mom's like, you did what? I'm like, you talk. I sat on Jesus's lap. We had a conversation. It wasn't my time. I'm coming back. And, my mom kind of, I'm sure, freaked out a little bit. But moving forward as an adult, you realize when you're on the edge of death, you realize when this could be over. And, I have talked to so many patients about the idea of dying. And for most of us, it's not that I'm afraid of death. I think it was more of the fact that I remember the first time I almost died. I was in the hospital, and I was talking, and a doctor didn't believe I was sick. He kept telling me I wasn't sick, and he kept telling me that I was having a panic attack and I couldn't breathe. And I was really, really, really struggling. And I remember telling him I couldn't breathe. And I remember thinking, and I remember being so sad that I was going to die, but it wasn't because I was sad for myself. I was sad for my mom, I was sad for my dad, and I was sad for my brother. And I was sad for the people who loved me most, because I knew that it would affect them the most. But I wasn't sad for myself. My heart didn't ache for me, because I knew that I knew I was saved. I knew where I was going. I was going to be with my maker. We have had many conversations. So for me, it wasn't a very sadness. It wasn't a heart-to-heart sadness about being sad for myself. I was sad for them, and I could see and feel their sadness. And that was like, whoa, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for y'all to have to go through this as my parents, because you're not supposed to bury your children.
Right.
And so I felt that for them. I felt that very real. And moving forward, I felt that time and time again. Even when I got sick, and I was here in Texas and I got sick again, I had that same feeling of not being ready, but this time it was for my husband. We were newlyweds, and I had 3 pulmonary embolisms, and he's so calm. He's a smooth, calm duck, but reality is I'm sure he was flipping out inside, I'm sure he was like, going a little crazy. And I felt for him. I felt for my sadness was for him. And if I were to leave this earth. And since I've had my son, I haven't had any close calls. And I don't know if that's mama strength coming through and realizing I have something bigger than myself to manage and take care of or what. But I have been healthy since he's been born. I have been living my best life. I'm tired. Don't get me wrong. I stay tired. I think that's about the next 10 years or so. I'm probably gonna be tired. But when I had my son, God just shone a new anointing on my life. And he was like, okay, so you're gonna be tired, but we're gonna get you through steps A through B through C through D. You may hard times and some pitfalls, but we're gonna bring you out of each step. You just got to call on me. I'm going to remind you to call on me because you're going to be too busy trying to do everything and be everything to everyone.
Okay. Woo. So I like the fact that you considered your family and that you understood that this life, this where we are in earth is not your home. And so that is just, that's interesting to me. But even today, we are in the middle of a global pandemic. And you have your son, your husband, your parents, and your sibling to be concerned about, as well as the rest of us that love Heather Avant. And so when I think about having a pre-existing condition in the midst of a global pandemic, what has been some of the greatest challenges you faced in this season?
That's a really good question. It's very poignant because in this season has been really hard for me. I have felt like because of everyone else's misgivings, I've had to suffer because I have had to be on lockdown. Because I know what it's like to be in intensive care, with a breathing machine shoved down your throat, or with them threatening a breathing machine shoved down your throat. I know what it's like to be in intensive care and wake up with tubes coming out of your neck and out of your shoulder and out of your chest and not knowing what the heck is going on. I have been in this one too many times, and I have no desire to go back to that. And let me tell you, what people don't seem to understand, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people who are really close to me, is they don't understand the amount of fight it takes to come out of that, to have a will to live. Mm-hmm. And sadly, people are like, oh, if you got it, you've done it before, you can do it again. I'm like, see, here's the difference. Before, I didn't have a child, I didn't have a husband, or I did. I mean, he was young and we're young and he can get remarried and all this. We didn't have kids, we didn't have all this stuff. So to do it now and to do it today and have to go through that today, the idea of that is so scary because it's like, I don't know if I have the fight in me to do that again, because it takes some type of ungodly willpower. God has to come through you in order for you to come out of that. There has to be an anointing and a calling on your life. And if you don't have it on your life at that time, God can be like, okay, come home. You've been good. And right now it's like, I got a baby to think about. Yeah. So I have felt during COVID, I felt very trapped because I know that for me, going out and being around people means putting myself where I can contract it. And I don't know for me if I have the fight to go through that again, because I've been through it 3 times. I've had, and when I was pregnant with my son, I coughed through the entire pregnancy. I had this thing called a pregnancy cough. They didn't even know what it was. And it was really because my was so poor and damaged over the years. My little big old baby was taking up so much room. I couldn't take a deep breath. And so my lungs coughed. So I feel almost like trapped. And in the beginning, especially, even now, I feel angry towards everyone else who's going outside and doing stupid things. And, just flauling around, no big deal, going here, doing this, no masks on, not social distancing, doing all the precautions. And I'm like, you suck because you're making my life difficult. I have to stay inside every day with my 3-year-old. Thank you very much. It's like house arrest with a toddler. No one wishes that. I don't care who you are, and if you do, call me and I'll send you mine. you know, you can have him for about a week. You'll regret that decision, because he's got a ton of energy, and to keep a 3-year-old under lock and key because he can't risk your health, and you can't risk getting sick. So yeah, I'm very angry about COVID in some ways. And in some ways it's helped me learn to pivot and to call on God a lot more and to be patient. I have never been good at that. So God is definitely calling me in this season to be patient.
I get it. I get it. It is so when I'm listening to you, and I have a personal insight to it all. I applaud you for the decisions that you're making because they are not easy. I applaud your family, in particular your husband, because you guys always seem to find a way to be a support to one another. I cannot imagine what it can be like sometime with a spouse that has a pre-existing condition, because then it puts limits on certain things that you can and cannot do. And like you're talking about in this season, it is just in your best interest to be as little to no exposure to other human beings, unless they are doing all of the necessary protocol to keep safe. And so when I'm listening to the challenges that you're facing, and I'm thinking about who you are as an encouragement to the sickle cell community, you're a patient advocate to a number of different sickle cell survivors. And how do you navigate that? So when you talk to other people who live with the same disorder as you, what does that conversation sound like? It sounds like it could get a little crazy sometime, because people are having real issues. Some people are like, forget it, I'm gonna live to live and not live to die, so I'm just gonna go out there and I'm gonna do what I do, not necessarily considering all things. And so what does that conversation look like when you're saying, okay, well, here are the safeguards that need to be put in place, and people like, we all over the place?
I get a lot of pushback. Not so much from the community. Most of the community, especially like my friends, because most of us are pretty educated, right? So most of us are like, yeah, we get you. You got cooties. Everybody got cooties. You got to think of the whole world having cooties right now, So
Right.
we understand that, most of us. But there are always those outliers, who are like, hey, come and do this with me. I'm having a birthday party. And I'm like, and they're like, well, will you come? And I'm like, absolutely not. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And they're like, but I've been safe. We don't have COVID. And I'm like, okay. Because who you've been around yesterday and today and the day before and the day before that. I can't take that risk. And I constantly have to tell people, this is a short time, right? A year it seems like it's a forever, but it's not. And how would it feel next year? You're asking me to come to your birthday party and know that I came last year and got sick and died, and now I can't even come to this year. Is it worth it? And,
Right.
and having to talk about the grand scheme of things. So we're constantly always having that like internal discussion with each other. Like, is it worth it, girl? No, girl, it ain't worth it. Don't do that. Don't kill yourself. Don't go out, and now we're running into flu season. Like, what is this? We call it co-flu. You don't want the co-flu. You get both of them, be real sick, and then they don't know which one you got. And then you fall. So, there's this huge divide of people who are kind of like, well, it's okay. Just come over for a little while. Or, well, quarantine's only 10 days. Quarantine is 14 days. The CDC says it's 14 days. You want me to pull it up on the website, and you have to kind of like throw it at people. And I had a friend recently, I believe Lolita may have told me to stop telling people to stop asking me to go out, because I'm like, I don't even want to go out. Don't ask me. Ask me next year in July. And then I may say yes or no, depending on where we are. And I get the idea of wanting people to continue to ask, because it makes you feel loved and included and that they still care. But for me, I feel sometimes stressed out by it, because I'm like, I have to say no all the time. And I'm going to be that person who says no for the next year. And then I have to convince people, you know, especially when they come back and they say, well, I don't have it. Or, you know, like Jett and I, you know, I'm taking him to this outdoor zoo that's far away because apparently it's a small zoo and you stay in your car. And I have friends who are like, well, we'll come with you. And I was like, or not. No, you want to stay. You can go, you can come. You stay in your car. I'll stay in my car. I can't social distance my 3-year-old. So, you know, it's a lot of just, we're frustrated. And I think the community as a whole is frustrated and we're all like angry and tired and sick of it. But then there's some of us who just don't care and they're like throwing caution to the wind. But not all of the sickle cell community, at least all of my friends, not all of them have spent any time in ICU. So they don't know what it's like to have to fight that battle. You know, you do it once, you kind of like, oh, I'm good. I don't do that no more. So it's really what you've experienced. And first, there are a lot of sickle cell patients out there who are living their best lives. They invite me to brunch and I'm just like, yeah, I love you, but no, I will not. You will not see me until next year, I promise. And it's funny because even one girlfriend invited me to something. They did a yoga retreat. And she's like, I'm sending this to everybody. Heather, I know you're not coming. And I had to laugh because it took the pressure off of me even having to say no.
Right.
So it's just, you know, the community itself, we're all struggling. We're all exhausted. We're all tired of it. But we see the idiocracy that's going around of people just not taking their health seriously.
Yeah, so
A year isn't very long to be inconvenienced. Isn't very long to be inconvenienced.
Okay, so
in terms of your life.
So and I hear that, and I think that when you think about who we are as Americans, right? Everything is about our freedom and all of this stuff. Well, you know, I shouldn't have to do this, and why should I have to do that? And it's like, okay, so if you're only thinking of yourself, then maybe you're right. But when you start thinking outside of you, your four, and you know, everybody else, you know, then it's like, oh, okay, I didn't think about it quite like this. And so when you're thinking about, okay, yes, I could get COVID and I could heal. I could get COVID and it could be to my demise. You know, I could die from this, you know. And so while a lot of the deaths are coupled with pre-existing conditions, I don't know that that's always the case, because we know of some cases where people were very healthy. They exercised, they ate well, they were young, and they died, you know? And so, so I just think that we really don't know enough about this COVID-19 coronavirus that we are dealing with in this season. But my heart goes out to the community of people like yourself who does have pre-existing conditions already that could cost you. So with COVID-19 coupled with where you are with the pre-existing conditions, it's like you have to make some different kinds of decisions. And so I just want to say thank you for championing so many in the way that you do, to be that example, because what people can't say is that you didn't do what you talked about. You do what you talk about. And I just, right. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. And so I'm going to ask you to just kind of look into the camera and just speak to the person who could be living with any kind of pre-existing condition, and they are feeling the anxiety, they are feeling the loneliness, they are feeling the pains of this current circumstance, right? Some people have lost their jobs, some people have lost their homes. People are losing so much, but people are also losing their minds under the guise of all that is going on, the pandemic, the racial unrest in the world. There are just a number of different things that are happening simultaneously with this global pandemic. And so if you could just encourage the listener today who's saying, you know what, I can relate, but I'm sick of it and I don't even know what else to do? What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say don't give in to today, right? This is what we're in, and COVID is a season. And it's a long season. Sometimes marriage is a long season if you're married. Sometimes singleness is a long season if you're single. It's just a season. And so you have to give into, I had a friend tell me today, give into your joy today, because I'm exhausted. I woke up, it's rainy, I'm miserable. So give into your joy today. Find that music, turn on some crazy lights, get a flashlight and dance. And you know, me and my toddler did that for about a half an hour, and it did make me feel a lot better, because the gloomies get you, right? The feeling of this is never going to end.
Yeah.
But I remind myself every day that the last 2020 has flown by. In the middle of being in a COVID, in the middle of being at home, in the middle of staying indoors and not seeing anyone and being lonely, 2020 has absolutely flown by. I have driven my husband, I'm sure, crazy, because I'm like, do something with me, play with me, let's do something, because I'm bored out of my loving mind. But then I've learned to pivot, find new interests. I have taken probably 20 classes. I've read 7 books, and I have a 3-year-old. You know, like, I'm not doing too shabby to be having a 3-year-old. You know, I keep it moving, and I try to find things that are interesting me. So I go to the Arboretum in the mornings. They open here in Dallas at 7 a.m. for members. We bought a membership so that I could go to the Arboretum in the mornings to get out of the house and get by myself. And there's nothing there but a rather elderly group of people. And I love it. And we all go, we say good morning to everybody. Everybody go their own way, and we all walk for an hour. And I have found ways to pivot. So you have to find your joy in every day, right? You can't live in the I may die, I may get sick, because God has a plan for all of us. So we're going to die when we're going to die. We're going to leave this world when we're supposed to. But you can live in your joy and find your joy every day. It doesn't have to be a long amount of joy. Some days I have a half an hour of joy, and then I have, 24 hours of wanting to choke my toddler. But you know what? I know that 10 minutes of joy may happen, and I'm going to dance when it does. So I believe in finding the happiness day to day, and in that moment, really rejoicing in it. And, I'm a photographer, so my first thing is to look in my camera, and I grab my camera, and I take pictures of my family or my dog, and I'm like, oh, they're so cute. Even if he's being a tyrant over there, he looks really cute in my camera right now, and I'm gonna love this moment. So find your joy. I feel like we need to pour into ourselves in this season more than ever. If that means buying a journal and journaling. I mean, Amazon has been my best friend. I order my groceries from them. I order anything I want because I don't leave the house much, so it's nice to order something. I save my little allowance I get, and I go and I'm buying myself some journal. I've been buying myself cute clothes because I'm not going to wear them nowhere, but I'm buying them because it's like, I got to buy myself an outfit here and there. So I pour into me, because I realized, like, in the beginning of this, I was pouring into everyone. My husband, I was making sure my parents were okay. I was making sure my brother was okay. I was making sure my child was okay. But I wasn't pouring into my own self. And by saying, and not being guilty about spending time with myself, it has changed my complete outlook on COVID. It's like, mommy's going to go to the bathroom, and I got a new lock on the door, so you can't come in. I'm taking 20 minutes. Goodbye. Close the door. I see little fingers come under the door, but it's, hey, my husband's like, hey, what are we having for dinner? I don't know. I mean, you're going to have to learn to cook, brother. And, it works. And I find that taking a little bit of control of yourself, taking control of your environment, and then pouring it into God. I have gospel music going all day long in my house. It's on low usually, but I find that it keeps the spirit of the house light, and it brings the Holy Spirit in, and it keeps the Holy Spirit in my home. And I believe that also, having that surrounding me, helps me to be filled up, even on days when I can't get out of the bed and I'm exhausted. The first thing I do is I'm like, I gotta go turn on some music, because that will enlighten your spirit, enliven you, and make you feel like, okay, God is with me in this. You're not alone. None of us are alone. People with praise and medical conditions who cannot leave the house, people who are like myself, who cannot leave the house and who are afraid to touch anybody or anything. And, I went to vote, and my husband was like, you good? I had like 2 masks on, and I had my PP, my professional, my P52 mask or P25 mask. And my husband was like, "You good, babe?" I'm like, "I'm good." We went at 12 o'clock and I was like, "We're gonna go vote." And there was no one there, because look at grace. When you ask for it, it's delivered, right? God delivers when you need it. So I walked in and there was not a single soul in that place. It was just me and my husband. And I was like, yes, I mean, thank you, Jesus. And we got in and got out. I was like, oh, we went home. We had a dope date. And I was happy because I got out of the house. I was like, I even got out the house for 20 minutes. Like, look at God. So you just have to pour into you right now. I think that that's the biggest thing that we can do for ourselves, is to pour into us. Read your Bible, stay in your word, listen to your gospel music, and cut out all the negativity. If it's Facebook, if it's Instagram, if it's people, there are a lot of people right now who are mad at me because I'm just like, your soul and your energy and the spirit that lives within you is not meshing with the spirit that lives in me. So I love you right now, but I'm going to love you where you are, and you can stay there and I'll stay here and we can stay here. And when COVID's over, we'll talk. But right now, I need to do this for myself.
Good job.
Take care of you.
Good job. That is so very important. So thank you for sharing those tips about what is possible, what you can do for yourself, and focusing on the joy. So thank you so much for that. Finally, I just want you to share with the audience, what are the things that your hands are in? What organizations are you connected to in this season in terms of mentorship and advocacy, and also how someone who may have some questions, someone who may feel like, you know what, I really liked her spirit, I really liked the things that she was saying, and I would love to contact her. Please share your contact information and just what you are doing in the sickle cell community today.
Well, my hands are in lots of little buckets, so I'm going to try to get over this real fast. I'm a busybody, so I keep myself busy because idle hands are not good for me. So right now, I am currently working on a project for sickle cell patients called the Unbreakable Warrior project. It is a photo project. I hope that this will be a massive photo project showing sickle cell patients in the best possible light, because so oftentimes we're shown as being sickly or sick. And I am not sickly, nor am I sick. I get sick, I have moments, I have bad days, just like everyone. So I want to show us in our strong lights that we are lawyers, philosophers, chefs, you name it, nurses, you name it. So I want to show that, and that project's going to do that. It's a photo project. If you want to check it out, you can check it out on my website at artfullyavant.com. It's under the title or the logo, Unbreakable Warrior. I also sit on the board of the NHLBI Cure Sickle Cell Initiative. I sit on the community input panel. I am the chair of that, and we are hoping to usher in a new line of patients who are going to be breaking barriers in regards to potentially cures for sickle cell disease leading into the future. And my goal is to help patients have a voice within that realm. And then I also work with a couple of organizations. I work with Carol's Promise here in Dallas, or they're out of Fort Worth, and they're a sickle cell organization, as well as I work with a company called SC3, which is Sickle Cell Community Consortium, and they are a CBO and a independent based organization where you can go and get tons of information. They have classes, they offer all types of information, people who live with sickle cell, who are looking to grow in sickle cell or understanding or in their advocacy, or who just want to help advocate for other people who have sickle cell. And right now I'm working on my photography and building my little newborn business. I'm looking for babies next year. Unfortunately, my studio is in my house, so you can't come in my house until this is over, but I am going to be looking for lots and lots of brand newborns. So if you're pregnant now, that means you might be ready for me when the time comes. So you can hit me up also at artfullyavant.com too, and you can look at any of my images and see my rates in regards to newborn photography. And you can check me out on Instagram at head_avant. or you can look me up at Artfully Avant on Instagram as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Heather. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your life with us here at Navigating Life with Coach Lo. It has just been a tremendous time. I am so grateful for the light that you are to the sickle cell community. Thank you for being an encouragement to this audience today. You encouraged me, so because I just believe that we're all in this together on some level, you know, because even if you don't have pre-existing conditions and you are taking the necessary protocol to keep yourself safe and the world around you as well, it can be just a bit testy right now. And so I just want to say you're doing a great job. You're doing it well. And I just thank you for continuing to be a light in this community. So love you bunches. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Lo. I love you. And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, babe. Bye-bye.